The hot tea burned my skin, but not as much as watching my husband do nothing. His mother stood there smiling while I bled. They thought I was just some poor girl who got lucky. But what they didn't know, I wasn't lucky. I was smart, and I was about to take everything. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or pushed to your limit, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button, because by the end of this, you'll see how the quiet ones always win. Now let me tell you how I went from their victim to their worst nightmare. My name is Simone, and this is the story of how I destroyed a billionaire family with nothing but the truth and a whole lot of patience. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine was calculated, legal, and absolutely devastating. So buckle up, because this gets wild. I met Andre Thompson at a tech conference in San Francisco 3 years ago. I was 28, fresh off leading a project at a mid-sized software company, and I had just finished presenting an algorithm that could revolutionize data security. Andre was in the audience. After my presentation, he approached me with this confident smile and told me his company desperately needed someone like me. We talked for hours that night about technology, innovation, and our dreams. He was brilliant, charming, and genuinely interested in my ideas. Within weeks, he offered me a position as lead engineer at his company. Within months, we were inseparable. Andre wasn't just a billionaire to me. He was my partner, my best friend, the person who saw my value when others overlooked me. 6 months after we met, he proposed on a rooftop in Manhattan with the most beautiful ring I'd ever seen. I said yes without hesitation. I thought I had found my forever. I grew up in Detroit with my mother, who cleaned houses to put me through school. She taught me that education was my ticket out, so I worked 3 jobs to get through MIT. I knew struggle, I knew sacrifice, but I also knew my worth, and when Andre made me feel like I had finally arrived at a place where I belonged. The first time I met Gloria Thompson, Andre's mother, was at their family estate in Connecticut. The moment I walked through those massive doors, I felt her eyes scanning me like I was an intruder. She smiled, but it never reached her eyes. During dinner, she asked about my family with this sweet voice that had poison underneath. When I told her about my mother and our life in Detroit, she said, "How inspiring that you've come so far from such humble beginnings." The table went quiet. Andre squeezed my hand under the table, but said nothing. That night set the tone for everything that followed. Gloria had a way of making every gathering feel like a test. I was destined to fail. She'd comment on my clothes, my hair, the way I spoke. She'd bring up Andre's ex-girlfriends, women from wealthy families who knew which fork to use and which charity galas mattered. I tried to win her over. I really did. I brought her gifts, complimented her taste, asked about her life. But nothing worked. To Gloria, I would always be the girl who wasn't good enough for her son. Andre would tell me to ignore her, that she was just protective, that she'd warm up eventually. But she never did. And slowly I realized he would always choose her over me. That realization hurt more than any insult she ever threw my way. I started to see that I hadn't married just Andre. I had married his entire toxic family system, and I was losing myself trying to fit into it. Everything changed on a Sunday morning in April. Gloria had organized one of her famous family brunches at the estate. These events were her stage, where she played the role of perfect matriarch, while quietly controlling everyone around her. That morning, I wore a dress Andre had bought me, hoping it would meet her standards. When we arrived, Gloria was holding court in the dining room, surrounded by Andre's siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins. She greeted Andre with a warm hug and gave me a tight smile. Throughout the meal, she made her usual comments. She criticized the charity work I had started, suggesting I didn't understand real philanthropy. She mentioned how Andre's father had built the family fortune with the right kind of people. Every word was a carefully placed knife. I remained calm, answering politely, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. Then she shifted tactics. She started talking about family legacy, about bloodlines, about how important it was to preserve what the Thompsons had built. She looked directly at me and said, "Some people marry into families like ours for love. Others have different motivations." I felt my face get hot. I put down my fork and looked at her. "Gloria, I love your son. I've never wanted anything from this family except to be respected as his wife." Her face twisted into something ugly. She stood up, grabbed her teacup, and before anyone could react, she threw the scalding hot tea directly at my chest and neck. The pain was instant and overwhelming. I gasped, stumbling backward, as the hot liquid soaked through my dress and burned my skin. The entire room froze. I looked down and saw my chest turning red, blisters already starting to form. Gloria stood there breathing hard, her face filled with rage and satisfaction. "You will never be family," she hissed. "Gold digging trash like you should know your place." I looked at Andre, waiting for him to defend me, to check if I was okay, to do something. He stood up slowly, his face pale, and said, "Mother, that's enough. That's enough. Not, how could you? Not, are you okay, Simone? Just, that's enough." Like she had merely said something rude at dinner, instead of physically assaulting me. The rest of the family looked away, suddenly very interested in their plates. Nobody moved to help me. Nobody said a word. I stood there, shaking, burned, and humiliated, and realized with absolute clarity that I was completely alone. I excused myself quietly and walked to the bathroom. My hands were trembling as I ran cold water over my chest and neck. The burns were bad, 2nd degree at least. Tears streamed down my face, not from the physical pain, but from the betrayal. I had given up so much to be part of this family, and they had just shown me exactly how little I mattered to them. I stayed in that bathroom for 30 minutes, treating my burns and staring at myself in the mirror. My mother's voice came back to me, something she told me when I was young, and kids bullied me at school. "Baby, never let anyone make you small. And if someone hurts you, don't just cry. Get smart." I dried my tears and made a decision. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg for respect or wait for Andre to grow a backbone. I was going to do what I did best: solve problems with strategy and intelligence. When I came out of the bathroom, Andre was waiting in the hallway. He looked uncomfortable, guilty even. He reached for me, but I stepped back. "We need to go to the hospital," he said softly. I shook my head. "I need to go home." On the drive back to our penthouse, he tried to apologize for his mother. He made excuses about her stress, her protective nature, her traditional values. I listened in silence, and with every word, I felt the last bit of love I had for him die. That night, while he slept, I sat in our home office and started working. I had access to all the family's financial records as Andre's wife. He had given me passwords, added me to accounts, trusted me completely. I started digging through everything: the family foundation, the trust funds, the business accounts, the tax records. What I found made my blood run cold. Gloria Thompson wasn't just cruel. She was a criminal. Over the next 2 months, I documented everything while playing the role of the perfect, forgiving daughter-in-law. I discovered that Gloria had been embezzling from the family's charitable foundation for years, funneling money into offshore accounts through fake art purchases and inflated consulting fees. She had manipulated Andre's father into early retirement by threatening to expose an affair she had fabricated evidence for. The Thompson family wealth, which everyone believed was built on legitimate business success, was partly constructed on fraud, tax evasion, and manipulation. I found emails, bank statements, forged documents, everything I needed. But I didn't just want to expose Gloria. I needed allies who understood the full scope of her corruption. That's when I reached out to Beverly, Andre's aunt, who had been pushed out of the family business years ago. Beverly had always been kind to me, and I suspected she knew more than she let on. When we met for coffee, I showed her some of what I had found. Her eyes filled with tears. "I tried to tell them years ago," she said. "Gloria destroyed my reputation to keep me quiet." Beverly became my partner in this mission. She connected me with Mr. Harrison, the family's former attorney, who had quit rather than participate in Gloria's schemes. Together, we built an airtight case. Every document was verified, every transaction traced, every lie exposed. I was meticulous because I knew I would only get one shot at this. During those 2 months, Andre remained oblivious. He thought I had forgiven and forgotten, that life had returned to normal. But I was changing. I became quieter, more observant. I recorded conversations in Connecticut, which was legal with single-party consent. I documented every dismissive comment, every insult, every moment Andre chose his mother over me. I needed the world to see what I had endured. One evening, I tested Andre's loyalty one final time. I told him I was thinking about divorce, that I couldn't continue living in a family that treated me so poorly. I wanted to see if he would fight for me, if he would finally stand up to Gloria. Instead, he got defensive. He said I was being dramatic, that I needed to try harder to get along with his mother, that maybe I should apologize to her for causing tension, apologize to her for getting burned, for existing. That's when I knew for certain that there was no saving this marriage. Andre had chosen his side long ago, and it was never going to be mine. I told him I needed time to think, and spent the next week finalizing my plan. Beverly and Mr. Harrison helped me coordinate everything. We contacted federal investigators, the IRS, financial regulators, and several journalists who specialized in white-collar crime. Everything was ready. I just needed to push the button and watch it all fall apart. On a Tuesday morning in June, I filed for divorce. But that was just the beginning. Simultaneously, I submitted a criminal complaint against Gloria Thompson for embezzlement, fraud, and money laundering. I filed a civil lawsuit against the family foundation for misappropriation of charitable funds. I provided the IRS with detailed records of years of tax evasion, and I gave 3 major financial publications exclusive access to the story, complete with documents and recordings. Everything hit at once. By 9 in the morning, federal agents arrived at the Thompson estate with search warrants. By 10, Gloria was being arrested on camera as news helicopters circled overhead. By noon, Andre's company stock had crashed as investors panicked about the family's legal troubles. By evening, all Thompson family assets were frozen pending investigation. I watched it all unfold from Beverly's house, where I had moved the night before. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Andre called 47 times. His siblings called. Even family friends I barely knew called, begging me to make it stop. But there was nothing to stop. I hadn't fabricated anything. I had simply told the truth to the people who needed to hear it. The truth was devastating because the Thompsons had built their entire empire on lies. Around 8 that evening, Andre showed up at Beverly's door. She let him in, and I agreed to see him. He looked destroyed, his eyes red, his expensive suit wrinkled. "How could you do this?" he asked, his voice breaking. I looked at the man I had once loved and felt absolutely nothing. Do what, Andre? Tell the truth? Report crimes? Protect myself? He shook his head frantically. You destroyed my family. My mother might go to prison. Our company is finished. Everything we build is gone. I stood up and walked closer to him. Let me show you something, I said, pulling down the collar of my shirt to reveal the scars on my chest and neck. The burns had healed, but the marks remained, darker patches of skin that would probably never completely fade. Your mother did this to me, in front of you, in front of your entire family, and you did nothing. You told me to try harder, to apologize, to accept my place. So I did accept my place, Andre, just not the one you wanted me in. Tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry. I should have protected you. I should have stood up to her. But did you have to destroy everything? I felt a cold laugh escape my throat. I didn't destroy anything. Your mother built a house of cards, on fraud and cruelty. I just stopped holding it up. You chose her over me every single day of our marriage. You chose her when she insulted me, when she burned me, when she treated me like I was nothing. So yes, when I finally chose myself, I chose completely. I'm done being quiet. I'm done being small. I'm done pretending that your family's money makes them good people. Andre left that night, and I never saw him again in person. The legal aftermath took months to unfold, but the outcome was exactly what I had planned. Gloria was convicted on multiple counts of embezzlement, fraud, and tax evasion. She was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The family foundation was dissolved, and remaining legitimate funds were distributed to actual charities. Andre's company, which couldn't survive the scandal, was sold off in pieces. The Thompson family wealth, once estimated at $3 billion, was reduced to almost nothing after legal fees, fines, restitution payments, and asset seizures. My divorce settlement was $47 million, which Andre's lawyers tried to fight, but couldn't, because I had documented evidence of emotional abuse and negligence. Beverly finally received her rightful share of the family inheritance that Gloria had stolen from her years ago. Mr. Harrison came out of retirement to help restructure what remained of the legitimate Thompson businesses. As for me, I took my settlement and started my own technology company. I hired people from backgrounds like mine, people who had been overlooked and underestimated. Within a year, we secured major contracts and proved that success doesn't require cruelty or fraud. It requires intelligence, integrity, and hard work. My scars healed, though they'll never completely disappear. But I don't hide them anymore. They remind me of who I was and who I became. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did, if I feel guilty about destroying the Thompson family. The answer is no. I feel nothing but peace. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves with their own greed, cruelty, and crimes. I simply refused to be their silent victim. I refused to protect people who hurt me. I chose my own dignity over their comfort, and I'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. Gloria thought she could burn me and break me, that I'd run away quietly, like others probably had before me. But she underestimated me. They all did. They saw a girl from Detroit who married above her station and assumed I'd be grateful for whatever scraps of respect they threw my way. What they didn't see was a woman who had fought for everything she ever had, who knew how to survive, who understood that silence isn't weakness, but sometimes strategy. My mother once told me that the most dangerous person in any room is the quiet one taking notes. I took notes. I built my case. And when the time was right, I spoke louder than any of them could have imagined. The Thompsons lost everything because they believed their money made them untouchable. But money can't buy integrity, and it can't protect you from the consequences of your own actions. So let me ask you this. Would you have done the same thing? Or would you have walked away quietly? Would you have fought back? Or would you have accepted the disrespect and moved on? Drop your answer in the comments, because I genuinely want to know how you would have handled being burned, humiliated, and betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you. If this story fired you up, if it made you think about your own boundaries and what you'd do if someone crossed them, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay down. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's been made to feel small or worthless by people who should have lifted them up. Because here's what I learned through all of this. They can burn you, but they can't break you unless you let them. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect costs everything. Never underestimate a quiet woman with a plan, because she's probably 10 steps ahead of you. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. The Thompsons learned that lesson the hard way. I'm Simone. I'm living proof that you can rise from the ashes stronger than ever. And I'll see you in the next one. Remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself when they show you who they really are.